I'm about to say something to you that you might have to meditate on, because the language white people give us to deal with white people is insufficient, inappropriate, and just flat out wrong. So let me give you something to chew on. Ever wonder what the real purpose of racism is and why they advertise racism to us so much?
No, I have my theories, but I wouldn't know.
No question I ask is ever rhetorical. Rhetorical questions is out of the white mind because they do a lot of things without purpose, or they do things with a purpose that they don't want you to know. When a black man asks you a question, there's a reason behind it. So what do you think on that before I expound?
I will say that open racism right now does seem to serve some purposes. It seems to keep white people sane. I think that if they felt that they truly had no advantage in society, that they would go crazy. I don't believe that they're mentally balanced by any stretch of the imagination. I believe that they are insane by their very natures, and the only thing keeping this nation from falling apart or being thrown into chaos, violent chaos, is the idea that whites do have very obvious advantages in society. That's what's keeping their animal nature in check. That is what's keeping their savagery in check.
Okay, what you just said, that's the angle we are taught to look at it from. But I have a different angle of light on this that I'm coming from. So before I get into it, when I ask you this question, let me know your thoughts on what comes to mind. And it is, everything the Caucasian does is a mimicry of something natural. They don't have the ability to create from themselves, and everything they do is designed to mimic something that they see in nature. And so, what is racism mimicking? What do they mimic in order to, what are they mimicking when they use racism? Because racism is something that benefits them, but what are they mimicking when they do so? Have you ever thought about that?
I also think that racism affects black people in a certain manner too. Sometimes if we get too focused or locked in on our obvious disadvantages, that takes us further and further away from harmony and peace. Now, we should be a little disgruntled. We should be rejecting a lot of this nonsense, but we shouldn't be so upset that we kind of lose joy in life. To answer your question, I don't know exactly what they're mimicking. Off the top of my head, I might say racism for them is their way of pretending that they are the default original natural human being, in that blacks and other natural people of this planet, they're anything but natural or original. It's kind of like their little dream world, where everything was always supposed to be white and crazy and insane, and things that are black and very sane and very natural are, in fact, unnatural. It's a lie.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now, what is the one thing that governs all life on this planet? Be it bacteria, be it plants, be it animals, there's this one thing that controls the behavior, thought patterns, culture, everything of all life on this planet. What is that one thing? Okay? What is that one thing that governs how a species, a people, a culture, a bacteria, a plant, an animal thinks? What is that one thing? And here's a hint for you. The Caucasians are battling this with their imposition of racism. So what is this one thing?
I guess technically there are two ways I can answer that question. I can say the sun controls all these things because the sun does have a direct effect on how we behave. It even has an effect on how we reproduce. The sun is just one answer. The other answer would be reproduction itself. But I think that's, or there's a third answer, the need to feed, sun, reproduction, food.
This third answer is what the sun interacts with when it deals with an amoeba, when it deals with people, when it deals with plants and animals, and so the sun deals with the Caucasian different than it deals with black people. Okay, so but all life on this planet is governed by this, whether they know it or not. And of course Caucasians know this, but they want you to believe that they are not governed by it in order that you become governed by them, by ignoring what you're governed by. So what is this one thing that governs all life on this planet? And the Caucasians are always messing around with this one thing in order to pull all other forces of life into their sphere of control. What is it?
I'm tempted to say energy, but I guess I might also be able to say melanin. I don't know exactly.
All right, let me help you out. I'm going to solve it for you. Because we have to start thinking about this shit with precision. 0-point precision. The one thing that governs all life of this planet, from an amoeba, a bacteria, the food you eat, the plants, the animals, the sea, the stars, the one thing that governs how the sun is interacting with you is genetics. What comes to mind when I just gave you that answer?
Considering that blacks have the original genetics, I guess, we have the oldest genetics, and I think we have genetics with the greatest of varieties. I'm not 100% sure about that last one, but I guess that makes sense. I mean, they are composed of entirely recessive gene traits: light or white skin, blue, gray, green, sometimes even red eyes, blonde hair, white hair, red hair, limp, dead hair. I mean, yeah, completely recessive gene traits.
Now, I want you to look at this video and you let me know if because all you named were physical, topical, static, well, not really static, but topical results of genetics. But let's look at the expression of genetics as well, and then let's get back on this conversation. What do you see in the precision? Do you notice any difference in the precision of how genes move when it comes to the Caucasian and the African? I want you to watch all three videos and get back with me. Do you notice something in the movement of the expression of genes? It's really not the traits that I give a fuck about. It's the expression of genes. What do you see when genes are expressed that you don't see in a Caucasian? Speak to some of those things.
I might have a hard time explaining myself because this isn't what I normally go into detail about. It's something that I've witnessed. I think the entire world has witnessed this, but we never really tried to verbalize it before, so most of us have a hard time actually doing that. Blacks are in tune with the rhythm of this reality. And you see it, you hear it when they speak, you see it when they move. But out of all the videos, I haven't seen your last two videos, I only saw the first video. Out of all the videos I've ever seen, period, I've never seen this displayed as effectively as in like boxing. Sounds funny, but boxing, any martial art, blacks excel in. And you can see that their movement is in martial arts, in boxing, violence, whatever. The black male's movement is instinctual. It's not a mentally calculating thing. It's you see that he's reacting to something, that he's riding a rhythm, you know.
Now, that's a good way of articulating it. Would you say the rhythm the black man and the black woman are riding? Because in that video you saw a whole family that was playing one as one, but they were in pure communication with each other and precision with what was going on. Now, wouldn't you say that truth is that rhythm that they're riding?
I don't know. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with myself, I don't truly know. Or maybe it is. Maybe I do know, and the little mental movies in my head might just be distracting me from the truth, because I've noticed that in myself as well. But it's entirely possible that the rhythm that they're in tune with is the truth on some level.
Now, when you hear ancient people refer to truth, you always hear of it in liquid forms like the ether, the vibe, the rhythm of life, the frequency. But when you hear Caucasians speak of truth, it's always something static, an object, something they can wield and control. Only one of those can be true, though. Which is it?
By default, I'm going to side with my people. I've witnessed too many things that the white man's science can't explain. It can't even reason out or justify. So obviously, it's not the truth.
Your response tells me you don't see it yet, so let me make it even more plain. Okay? Truth is always true. Otherwise, it wouldn't be truth. Right? So what is that one thing? What is the composition of that one thing that can be everywhere and nowhere at the same time? Can it be a solid that only has one form and can't transform anything? Or is it the one thing that is the form? And it's also the energy that gives life to that form. It's matter and antimatter at the same time. It's either ethereal, liquid, gaseous, or it's only solid. You know, because if you look at water, water can be made into a solid, but it can also turn back into ether and evaporate away. So which quality does truth have? Static or liquid?
Well, if you explain it that way, I feel that it's only right to say that truth is a liquid. Even solids are liquids. And I think only now scientists are starting to realize that there are a few documentaries on it. Everything in the universe is technically a liquid. It just falls apart or it reforms and reshapes at different points and at different times. But a diamond is still technically a liquid. It's kind of crazy, but it's pretty cool, undeniable logic.
Now, because I'm speaking directly from an African perspective, a true African perspective, an indigenous African perspective, a non-scholarly African perspective. I've never gone to college. I'm completely self-educated based on my own actions and my own observations, and I'm able to describe them, which forms my language. Now, who are the one people on this planet that transforms how humans conduct life on this planet? Who are the one people that does that naturally transform the way the planet moves? Who does that?
I think there could be multiple answers to that question, and I need you to bear with me here because I might not give you the answers that you want. I'm still trying to understand myself as well as the universe I live in, which might be one and the same, but who naturally changes the planet, it's none other than black people. But who unnaturally changes the planet is white people. They destroy the planet, they perverse it, they mutate it. So technically both groups are changing the planet, if that's what you're referring to.
I noticed that in all of your statements, you're giving, I always had, what's that word I'm looking for? You're giving reality and illusion the same space in your mind. So we have to deal with that. Can true and false truthfully occupy the same space and time? Does it ever truly happen in nature? Can you look out to nature and see where truth and non-truth exist in the same space and time?
I don't think so. I've never noticed it.
And I'm going to give you another secret about the English language. The English language is specifically designed to push its adherents into taking truth only when falsehood is present. Preferably rejecting truth altogether, but only receiving truth when falsehood is present. And when falsehood isn't present, then you are compelled through English to give falsehood equal space. And what that does, it creates a static zone. It causes a negation of the flow of truth. Do you see how that works? You have to see it rather than believe it as a definition. Definitions don't exist. Definitions are used to obstruct the flow of truth. Remember, truth is ethereal. So, if I want to make truth static, what must I do? I must give you static falsehood and parry it. Do you see what I described? Right? Come out of the definitions and look into the flow of what I've described. And, can you see it?
I can see it. I don't think I'm. I don't know. I don't think I always explain myself or sometimes even think in the manner that you're describing right now, but I'm very aware of it. If I was to verbalize it right now, I would say something to for when you talked about the English language. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place right now because I just ate some spicy food and it's affecting the way I'm thinking right now. But when you talked about the English language, it is designed to prevent you from getting any real hold on it. It's too many exceptions, too many additions, too many modifications to the language for it to make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's like bad math. If you get the basics of math down, you know, it's though they say this is real healthy, but I've been drinking a lot of cayenne red pepper, ground red pepper, with water. And if you drink it, it's supposed to be really good for your body, your internally, but it gives you bad nerves and it affects the way your mind works. So I'm struggling through all of this, but you should try it sometime. It's actually good for you.
No, it's not good for you because everything comes down to energy. And the reason my mind works so clearly now is because I got out of their definitions all the way through and began to move on my own energy on all levels. And energy is the best teacher because the Caucasian academic system and their language is about the static brain. But true energy is about the mind, right? Because what happens what is created when energy flows on a circuit with precision? And what is created when that energy keeps speeding up and keeps maintaining its precision? What happens? What is created as a result of that?
I'm not sure I understand the question completely, but I'll try to give an answer. I think you said, okay. Well, if the energy just keeps burning and burning and burning consistently without stopping, I would think that it would wear and tear on whatever the conductor is, or whoever the conductor is.
Okay, that's a different angle than I was going to come from, but I'm going to go with it. Now, when that energy keeps speeding up, okay, doesn't the type of conductor determine how much energy it can handle as it speeds up? Does the type of conductor play a role in how fast and how precise energy is able to continue to flow?
Yes, it does. For instance, you can use silver to conduct energy, but it's not very good. Gold conducts energy infinitely better than silver does.
Okay, now, what is the primary source of flowing energy that all beings and all creation on this planet must be able to conduct? What is the primary source of all that energy?
Well, that's a good question. I think sunlight seems like the thing that we all need to be able to deal with in order to exist on this planet in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But either sunlight or water, I guess water can be called a type of energy. Yeah, that's all I have.
What is the highest, most abundant source of energy on this planet? What is the source? What is the source that generates the highest amount of energy in time and space on this planet? What is it?
I think I'm always going to have to go with solar energy or sunlight. That seems like the most abundant source of energy. It's also the most renewable source of energy on the planet, as far as I know.
Now, do you control how much energy the sun pushes you into conducting? Do you control that?
To a degree, I think we have some control. I mean, a lot of blacks who stay out of the sunlight are, generally speaking, less healthy than the blacks who receive direct sunlight and spend more time outside. But as far as the potential of how much we're going to be able to conduct, no, we don't have any control over the potential of how much we can conduct.
Now, this brings me back to my initial point about genetics, because genetics determine whether or not your physical vessel has the capacity for the energy load of the sun. What happens to you when your physical vessel cannot serve as a conductor for the maximum output of the solar energy? What happens to your vessel?
The solar energy, if it can't pass through you and be metabolized in any way, it actually destroys your body. It creates cancer and all that.
Now, when it comes to dealing with the sun truthfully, naturally, biologically, you see what I'm getting at?
Oh, I understand. It does explain white interest in genetics.
Now, when it comes to why the Caucasian would create racism, what must the Caucasian do in order to be able to control such a people who naturally conduct whatever energy the sun decides to emit? And the sun is emitting that energy because the solar energy is a form of sonar energy. It's a form of sound. Solar. Lar is light. And sonar, so is sound. It's all sound. It's just, sunlight is a very high frequency of sound, okay? That's all it is. And all creation comes from that frequency. I mean, it all comes from that. It all comes from this is a lower, we are on Earth, this is a lower vibration of that same energy. So, how does a people who can't conduct that energy control the people who can? Think tactically, what must they do to our genetics, right, in order to be able to control someone with our genetics? What must they do to us? I mean, if we can handle whatever the sun gives us, and that's intelligent light, okay? That is intelligent light. It causes us to be able to think and move and see and hear and taste and feel and understand at deeper levels due to the earlier question I asked about circuits. Whenever that energy keeps spinning, you create a magnetic field. That magnetic field is generated when the sun energy hits our body and is able to spin around as fast as possible with very little blockage. That magnetic field is what we call the aura. Okay? It's what the Caucasians call the biosphere. And genetics is all about increasing the ability of that solar light to flow through you as highly as possible, preferably to the same frequency that it comes from the sun as. But as we begin to take on pollutants and be blocked, that vibration slows down, and our magnetic field slows down, our aura slows down, and the aura is where your solar intelligence comes from. So, are you starting to understand why the Caucasian must implement racism from his angle? Why he must do so? Why he has no choice to do so if he is to rule? And can he survive on this planet if he didn't rule? See, these are questions you got to ask and get out of the emotionality of it. Just ask real questions. Can the Caucasian survive if he couldn't rule the people of the sun? Are you starting to see the answers to those questions unfold in your head? If you are, you must describe those answers and leave the definitions alone. You're trying to find a way to, if you're trying to find a way to adhere to definitions and describe truth at the same time, it's impossible. Just describe what you start to see.
To answer your question, no, he couldn't survive if he couldn't rule over us. Everything in our genetics hints at our dominance. We're supposed to be in control of this planet. I strongly believe that, at least.
Real language functions as description, by the way. You see what I do with it? You see what I do with language? It's real-time description. Now, if all energy is solar energy, what would happen to his physiology if black people as a whole started to vibrate with the frequency of the sun? Right? What would happen to his physiology if that were the case?
I believe it'll break apart. That's way too much energy that we'll be channeling.
Okay, now, what must he do to us in order to ensure that we don't vibrate at that frequency?
I'm going to correct what I just said. The white body can't handle solar energy. They will be destroyed if more black people channeled more of that energy. Well, he would have to water down our genetics as best as possible. He would have to make our bodies toxic. He would have to control our minds to convince us that sunlight is our enemies too, and being darker skinned is somehow ugly. He would have to rule every aspect of our internal person or internal being to truly dominate and control us.
And solar energy is truth. Okay? As you start to embrace truth, your capacity for truth rises. And as your capacity for truth rises, truth starts to show itself to you even more. You begin to see the truth in regular things around you more. Truth exposes the true self. Whenever truth is spoken to you, the first thing you're going to feel is the light on yourself. So what must he do? What must he do to us in order to ensure we never rise to that frequency?
He would have to essentially separate us from the light, from the tune, from the vibe.
Now, are you starting to see what the implementation of racism really is?
You know, I uploaded a video earlier this year that I took down after just a few minutes, and I don't know if you even caught the video, but it was on my A Day Force channel. The video was about my experience when praying under the sun and sunbathing. And I don't know why this happens, but it's like, don't tell anyone I said this either. I am brought to tears every time I sit down in the sun and I bask. I'm always brought to tears. And there is some level of communication happening between me and the sun, and I don't know what it is. But the sun in my eyes represent love. There's power there. I just don't know how to describe it. The implementation of racism is it's like a preservation tactic for whites. Survival tactic for whites, basically.
Now, who ultimately controls whether or not they're successful with their implementation?
I would say black people. We control whether or not they succeed in their tactics.
What must black people do in order to ensure that they don't succeed at their tactic, at what they're attempting to achieve through racism? What must black people actually do?
Well, they have to unite. They have to exercise a higher level of solidarity, and they have to reestablish their connection with truth.
Now, which comes first, their solidarity or their connection with truth?
I don't think there can be any solidarity without truth. So I believe truth comes first. But that's just my opinion.
Now, are you starting to see how this society is constructed? Okay. What do they ask you as a child? Do they ask you, what do you want to be? Or do they ask you, what problems do you want to solve?
They normally ask what you want to be.
Have you ever thought about the anatomy of that question? Okay. Are they asking you to tap into truth, or are they asking you to accept a predefined role in a society that they've already constructed around you? You know, can you do both? Can you be truthful and an actor at the same time?
I don't think you can effectively do both. You have to be one or the other. And, you have to side with truth, or you have to side with the lie, the title that they want to give you. It's one or the other.
And have you noticed how life is constructed, right? When you're a child, you see the problems, and you speak to them, and you're shushed into silence. When you're in school, you act out because you feel the lies coming on you. But if you want the good grades, you must accept the lie. And the better you are at perpetuating the lie, the higher your grades get, and the higher your grades get, the more opportunity for the fiat currency you have a chance for. Now, they call their fiat currency wealth, but how can you truly be wealthy when you are only moving against your own genetics as a way of life? Have you noticed that everything that generates money in this society goes against African genetics?